just take you through what you're going to need for this. So I've got some different threads here. I've got an awl. This is basically, as you can see, it's just a long metal. It's quite, not particularly sharp, but obviously sharp enough to pierce through paper and things like that, and fabric, and it tapers down, so you can make the hole bigger the further you go down. Now you'll need a pencil, you'll need I'm using a chenille needle. Make sure that your needle isn't too thick, or at least depending on the size of the hole that you're going to need. Obviously I'm only using stranded cotton, so I'm not going to need to pierce the card too much really. So I need to make sure that my needle isn't too big, because the first time that I did this I used a much bigger chenille needle and it made the hole in the card too big, and you could see the hole afterwards. So I'm going to see how we get on with a smaller needle. And then I'm using just a card, like a greeting card, and obviously I've got a matching envelope there. And then you'll need a mat as well. If you don't have a mat, I started off, I've only got this recently, I started off with just like a thick wad of card, but obviously I don't really want to waste the card, so I got one of these, and yeah, you can get them in any craft places and they're not too expensive either.
Make sure that when you draw your design, make sure that it's nice and light, because you won't be able to erase it afterwards.
So I've drawn my design. I'm just doing a simple flower just to show you how to do this, and obviously you can do more complicated designs or something a bit more interesting if you like. And I'm just going to open my card out flat, because obviously if you're doing a greeting card, so you don't want to then pierce through this side, and even if you don't necessarily pierce through this, you'll still end up with like little indentations on there. So I'm going to open it out flat, and I'm just going to take my awl and I'm just going to put it in the place that I want to start, and then just press down until it's pierced the card. I'll bring that a bit closer so you can see it's just pierced a small hole in the card there. And then now obviously you can do the spaces in between as sort of close together or as far apart as you want to, but obviously you don't want to do it so close together that it ends up just being one great big hole. So you don't want to end up basically just having a tear in your card, because you won't be able to sew anything. So I'm going to leave about 1 centimetre in between each of them, and I'm just going to go along the lines and just pierce about that distance in between.
Also make sure that you're working on a sturdy flat surface, so that as you puncture the card it will all stay nice and neat. And now comes the fun part. Now it's time to start embroidering. So I used backstitch for the petals and for the stem, and I did have to keep turning it over to see where I was stitching. I used lazy daisy stitch for the petals and French knots for the centre of the flower.
So there we go, I've finished. So you can see the flower. Like I said, I need to just get rid of these bits of pencil mark, and possibly the wonkiest butterfly I've ever seen, but never mind, we can say it's in mid-flight. There we go. So you can see it's not really that difficult. The only thing you've got to think of is just where you're going to stitch. So instead of, like I said, with the lazy daisy stitch, obviously you don't need all the punctures around the edge of the petal, because you only bring the needle through here and here. So yeah, it's just a case of thinking where you're going to stitch. I've just done lazy daisy stitch with the butterfly as well, but like I say, it's not the prettiest butterfly, let's face it, but never mind, it has a bit of colour. So on the inside, you can, obviously if you don't want this to be on show, you can add a piece of pretty card over that, perhaps with some double-sided tape, but I don't mind really. I think it just adds a bit of colour on the inside.